my voice and screen? Those are attending in online. Is my voice and screen is clear to all of you guys? Please confirm to me. All of you get my voice and screen? Please confirm to me. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice and screen? Right, sir. Guys, from Monday onwards, a new link is going to be provided for this is spring framework. A link is going to be changed right from Monday. So today is the last session, and tomorrow no classes is going to be happen. On Monday onwards, new link is going to be provided for the registered members. You are able to get a mail with the new link with the Durgasoft ID number. Please register for the class with the Durgasoft ID number. All right. Right, guys. Now try to register for the course if you are not registered now. Right, Monday new link will come there. All right. Good morning, guys. Right, sir. Now understand this. What we completed there in the last session. Any idea? What we understand in the last session? So I think so. We are discussing about the frameworks introduction part. In frameworks introduction part, just we understand. Just we understand what is the requirement of the frameworks, what is the need of the frameworks. Then after that, how many types of frameworks are available? Next one is advantages of the frameworks. After the advantages of frameworks, then we started the discussion of the differences between different frameworks. All right, so now let's see some content before understanding all the points now. First of all, what is the need of the frameworks here? If we observe the point here, what is the requirement to go for frameworks? Then here the question is very clear. To prepare web applications, all of you ready? I think I already completed this topic, right? Right. Answer for my question. To prepare web applications, already we have some server-side technologies like Servlets and JSpace, and some servers are available like what there, Tomcat, WebLogic, and so on. And some design models are available like Model 1 architecture, Model 2 architecture, and MVC. Next one is apart from this, like what there, like some IDs are available to speed up the application development, like what there, different. So these many technologies and tools are available to prepare web applications, but still, what is the requirement to go for frameworks? That's the question now. Tell me your answer. Speak loudly, sir. Can I select a member? All right, anyway, answer for this question is what? Who is confident on this question now? Definitely think of it. Myself is an interviewer. I'm asking this question to you. What is the need of the frameworks? What frameworks are providing for us? If we come for this, what is your answer then? Tell me at least what is the question I've asked to you? What question I've asked to you? Please sit down, not required to stand. Yes, I'm asking what is the question. Now I asked one question there. Speak loudly. No, answer is not required, only question. You're busy with the mobile phone, right? WhatsApp chatting, right? Hey, I'm observing very clearly. No? A video call, right? Now what you are doing? Learning Java through mobile phone, no? Fine, okay, fine. Don't use mobile phones, sir. Right, sir. Now answer for this question is very clear. See, you have to respond to that interviewer in this way only clearly. What is that response there? From application to application, web application to web application, or MVC based application to application, or from module to module, some components are very much common. Which components are very much common here? If you observe this, in MVC based web applications, controller servlets are very much common. Next one is after that. Some services are available, some generic services are available. What are the generic services there? No, internationalization, data validations, exception handling, security like authentication and authorization. All these services are very much common from web application to web application as well as from module to module. If no predefined support is available for all these, we must take the responsibility to provide every component, even though they are common, individually. So a lot of time will be taken, more burden will come to the developers. When more development time is taken, automatically development cost will be increased. When a development cost is increased, automatically then productivity will be reduced. More development time, less product. So productivity will be reduced. So in this particular scenario, we need an alternative. In that alternative, what you are expecting that solution? No, whatever the common elements, whatever the common elements and whatever the common resources, common services we are using in our applications, all of them I want to get as an inbuilt support from some products, a product or maybe technology or from server, whatever it may be. Like indirectly what I'm telling there, controller servlet and all the services I want to get as what their predefined support. Now check with the technologies like servlet technologies available. Are able to get any controller servlet predefinedly? No, up to HTTP servlet, up to generic servlet is providing there for preparing servlet classes, but controller servlet is not provided here. So technologies are not providing our common services. Okay, any server is providing them? No server is providing. Tomcat or WebLogic or maybe some other servers. They are not providing anything like what there. These many common components as a built-in support. Any framework is providing, sorry, any ID is providing them? No, ID is providing just to avoid the compilation and to avoid like what there execution by using command prompts. Maybe some integrations about it is providing, but these many components are not provided by default. Any other tool is providing? No, not providing there. So exactly there is a lack, there is a scope to provide some third-party vendor product which provides all these many components. The same thing was happened. So almost all majority, that means some of the third-party vendors have provided their own products with all the common elements as built-in components. That third-party products are called as what their frameworks. That's the meaning of like what their frameworks. Then after that, I give you some definitions for frameworks. Tell me guys, what exactly the definitions are given for frameworks? Three definitions are given for frameworks. Can you tell me what are the three definitions for frameworks now? First definition is what? Now tell me. What is the first definition, guys? All of you understand this. Framework, at least the cache words are available, that we have to remember. Framework is a prefabricated software units or components that a developer can reuse, can share, can customize to simplify the enterprise application development. That's point number one. Point number two. Now observe carefully. In the enterprise application, 70% of the implementation is a common. Only 30% of the implementation is what there? Client specific, application specific. All right. Frameworks are providing the 70% of the implementation, which is common. So if you take your application scope is 100%, no, out of this 100% of the application, 70% of the application is already provided by our frameworks. That's the point. That means we can say with the 70% of the implementation, we can say framework is a semi-implemented application. Framework is what there? A semi-implemented application. Not like any other one. It is a semi-implemented application. Why? Because 70% of the application implementation was already provided by our frameworks, where a developer can focus on the remaining client-specific 30% of the implementation. Then automatically simplicity is available for the developers or not? Where simplicity is available or not? That means almost 70% of the burden was avoided or reduced for developers or not? That is an advantage of like what their frameworks. Third point I've given there, third definition. What is the third definition I've given there? Frameworks is a collection of tools and APIs. Frameworks is a collection of APIs and tools which simplifies application development. Which simplifies what their application development. Say for example, logging is required. That logging is already inbuilt inside the framework. Of course, it is a service I'm telling there. Not only that, APIs are required. Servlet API is required for Spring framework. For example, the Servlet API is what they're inbuilt. JDBC API is required. That is what they're inbuilt. Not only that, some third-party APIs are also be required in general in application development that are also be inbuilt inside the frameworks. So that's why it is a combination of or collection of APIs and tools which simplifies our application development. Like this, even if we give any number of definitions, no, for all the definitions, the target is what there simplifies the application development, which simplifies what their application development. That point here we understood. Okay, what is the requirement of the framework? What is framework here? We understood. Can you tell me what are the various advantages of the frameworks? What advantages here we are able to get from the frameworks? Some advantages are given. What is the first advantage there? Now tell me. Right, sir. As usual, common words are given there. What are the common statements? No. With the frameworks, we can reduce development time. Nice. Next one is what their development cost will be reduced. Next one is what their productivity. That's the main point. Productivity will be increased. That's okay. Parallel development is going to be happen with the frameworks. Leave it. Next one is what there. Apart from this parallel development, no. What next one here we are getting there? Now tell me. Any other reason? Tell me some generic services are provided by frameworks like what there logging or security or maybe and so on, some other transactions API, some generic services, data validations, all the things are provided by frameworks by default. Not only that, frameworks are providing some standard flow of execution between the components. Standard flow of execution. First request will come to this one only. Next request must go to this particular one. After that request will come to this particular element only. This particular element is generating some response to the respective client. Got my point or not? This is a standard flow. The standard flow of execution is provided by frameworks for the developers. Not only that, if we take MVC based frameworks now, where to prepare servlets and where to prepare Java beans and where to prepare JSP pages, it's a predefined template to keep all the components now. Predefined template is available. That predefined template is defined by frameworks only. That predefined template is defined by whom? Their frameworks only. So we are able to get the predefined template to prepare our what their applications. Yes, sir. Got my point or not? All right, sir. Moreover, support is available for the frameworks from almost all the servers, from almost all the tools and technologies. Support is available. Every framework might be, especially Spring framework I'm talking, no, that support is available from the servers and IDEs. That framework support is available. So application development is much easier when compared with others. No. Okay, and so on. So many advantages here we are getting clearly. After that, after understanding all these advantages there, after getting all these advantages, no, then what is the next one here? After this, how many types of frameworks are available? What are the types of frameworks? No, two types of frameworks. What are the two types of frameworks? No, come on, web application frameworks. Second one is what there? Application framework, web frameworks and application frameworks. What is the difference between web frameworks and application frameworks? This is a question. Answer for this question is clear, very clear. Web frameworks are able to provide very good environment to prepare and execute only web applications. But application frameworks are providing very good environment to prepare any type of applications. What are these any type of applications there? Maybe standalone applications, web applications, distributed applications, database related applications, and so on and so on and so on. Any type of application here, we are able to prepare. Understand this point clearly now. All right, so then after that, after completion of these different types of frameworks, no? Can you tell me examples for web frameworks, no? Can you tell me examples for what there? Web frameworks, no? All right, Struts is one of the web framework. JSF is one of the web framework. Xwork 2, another web framework. Tell me any example for application framework. Spring is the best example. I don't have any idea of other frameworks about this application framework. As per my knowledge, I seen only one framework, that is what there, Spring. Of course, if any other framework is available under application framework, it might be get some demand in outside market also. People may identify even that framework also. But as of now, I didn't see any other framework which is like what there Spring framework. Then immediately we are having some question. What are the differences between Structure, JSF and what there Spring framework? I think so. There we stopped our class there, but I explained that all the concepts now. But where we stopped the content here now. Now we have to understand point by point clearly about the concepts here now. See, understand it clearly. Only the title is what there frameworks. Introduction of the frameworks is the title. Where what are the various subtopics here we understood. First of all, requirement. Next one is the what is that definitions. Third one is what their advantages. Next one is the types. These four titles here we have to understand. At least have a question in our mind. I completed this topic there. What is the requirement of the frameworks? We have to speak out that point. What are the definitions for the framework? We have to speak out that. What are the advantages of frameworks? We have to speak out that. Types of applications, we have to speak out that. Understand my point, guys? So whenever we are giving some introductory part for the frameworks now, when we are giving introductory part for the frameworks now, immediately interviewer may ask this question to you. Interviewer may ask this question to you. Interviewer will ask you, tell me some examples for web frameworks, such as JSF and Xwork. Tell me some example for application framework, Spring. Tell me the differences between all the frameworks. At least not required to go for in-depth content there. At least top level differences here we have to understand. Even my intention is also be not to discuss too much internals of Struts framework, too much internals of JSF framework. Of course, I had idea on all this, but not required to discuss here. Just at least top level differences here we required. High level differences here we have to understand. What are these high level differences between Struts, JSF and Spring framework? No, point by point here we are going to understand there. All right, sir. Up to now, as per our knowledge, what is the very first point here we are going to understand now? Tell me. What is the very first point? Just now we understood there web frameworks and what next one? Application framework. What exactly that point? All right, sir. Now, all right, sir. Struts, JSF are web frameworks. Okay, which are used to prepare and execute only what their web applications, which are used to prepare and execute only what their web applications. Got it or not? All right, sir. Next one is after that. What is that Spring framework here? Spring framework is an application framework. Application framework. It can be used to prepare all the types of applications. All the types of applications like. Right, sir. Now I want to give some types here. What are the things now? Standalone applications. Next one is after that, like what their web applications. Then after that, what next one here? Distributed applications. Next one is a database related applications. Right, sir. And so on. So many examples are available. All right, sir. Standalone applications in the sense by using core module and by using like what their AOP module we can use. Web applications by using Spring Web MVC and Web module. Distributed applications then just by using what the J2EE module in our Spring. Then by using like database related applications, Spring JDBC and Spring ORM and Spring transactions. Like this, so many. This is point number one. Here we have to understand. Sir, got it or not? All right, so now here we have to understand clearly after that. Point number two, observe carefully. Point number two. From this point, one more point I'm going to elaborate there. Now try to understand it now. In the enterprise application development, Struts and JSF are able to have main focus on the presentation layer. Struts and JSF are having main focus on like what their presentation layer. Observe carefully. They're having main focus on like what their presentation layer. Main focus on like what their presentation layer. But what about this Spring? You know, Spring is able to provide. Observe carefully. Here, what I'm telling you know, Spring is able to provide, is able to have very good focus on all the layers of the enterprise application. All the layers of the enterprise applications. What are these layers? Can now understand this clearly. All the layers of enterprise application like what their presentation layer, comma, then what next one here? Business layer, comma, persistence layer. Am I right or not? All the layers focus is available for this content here. Observe carefully. All right, sir. Spring Framework is able to have very good focus on all the layers of the enterprise applications like presentation layer, business layer, and persistence layer. Then immediately interviewer will ask that question to you. How Spring Framework is having a focus on all these layers? There we should give response there. What is that response? You know, presentation layer. If you think about it, then what next one? You know, web module, and web MVC. Of course, web module, web MVC modules. This is another one. Next one is a business layer. If you want to go for this business layer here, we can understand, of course, core module, AOP module. Observe carefully. Next one is a J2EE module. This is also available in some versions here. Next one is a persistence layer. If you think about this persistence layer, JDBC module, ORM module. Next one is, of course, transactions module. Another one is like what there? Transactions module. Like this. In that way, we have to explain to the interviewer. If you are getting this question there, that's okay, fine. All right, sir. Now, observe carefully. Point number 3. What is this point number 3 here? After understanding these points here, in the enterprise application development, okay, layers point of view here, we understood there. Next one is struts is not a layered framework. Struts and JSF both. Struts and JSF are not layered frameworks. That means instead of saying this layered frameworks, no, like we can say are moduled frameworks. But whereas Spring framework is a layered framework, layered or moduled framework. That means number of modules are available in the case of Spring framework. I said to you number of modules like core module, next one is like what the AOP module, next one is what there. So like security module and so on, so many. Got my point or not? Okay, fine. From this third point, I'm giving fourth point, another point here, observe carefully. What is the fourth point here? Because of these modules there, Struts framework is a heavyweight framework. Struts and JSF both. Struts and JSF frameworks are heavyweight frameworks. What is the meaning of this heavyweight? No, there we have to explain the point clearly. Simply giving the point is not sufficient, where further explanation is required. Now tell me, Struts and JSF frameworks are what? They're heavyweight frameworks. What is the meaning of this heavyweight framework? No, how can you specify that? No, all right, sir. To print or to display a simple welcome message. All right, sir. To display a simple welcome message are like what there? To prepare simple web applications, like to display a simple welcome message, the entire Struts and JSF frameworks must be loaded with or without the requirement. Observe carefully, guys, what I'm telling to you. Struts and JSF frameworks are heavyweight frameworks. To prepare simple web applications like to display a simple welcome message, the entire Struts and JSF frameworks must be loaded with or without the requirement. Yes, all of you get my point now. But in the case of Spring, what happened there? No, all right, sir. In case of Spring framework, if we want to, if we prepare simple application, if we prepare like what there simple application, then only the required module libraries must be loaded, not required to load the complete Spring framework. Not required to load the complete Spring framework. Observe carefully. So in case of Spring framework, if we prepare a simple application, then if we prepare a simple application, only the required module libraries must be loaded, not required to load the complete Spring framework. Observe carefully. So by this we can understand like what there Spring framework is what there lightweight. Am I right or not? All right. So now here Spring framework is lightweight. Here let me specify that point here. Spring framework is lightweight. Why? Because Spring framework is lightweight. Spring framework is lightweight framework. Why? Because in the case of Spring framework, if you prepare simple application, only the required module libraries must be loaded, not required to load the complete library. That's okay. That points can be understood. This is like what I'm telling there, fourth point. Next one here. Apart from this, observe carefully. Fifth point I'm telling there. Struts and JSF. Observe carefully. Struts and JSF are more API dependent. That means more and more predefined libraries required. But whereas Spring framework is less API dependent. Then in this case also, interviewer may ask this question to you. Interviewer may ask this question to you. What is that question there? How can you say Struts and JS were more API dependent? And how Spring framework is less API dependent? The reasons here we have to understand. But example point of I'm telling there. In the case of Struts framework, if you want to provide some business logic, there we have to write action class, for example. Where we have to write what there? Action class. Okay. Then how we are going to write this action class here? Public action forward execute of action form. Then after this action form, next one is like what there? There's some other library. Maybe after this HTTP servlet request comma HTTP servlet response comma. Now this is for example void or forward action. I think so. Something else, guys. Then don't worry for it. But finally here we have to understand throws exception. Like this here we have to write. Something else, no? Now again. Public class something else login action extends action or extends or implements whatever it may be. Finally library here we have used. That point here we have to recognize. Right. Now observe carefully. Extends or implements. No need to think about it. But anyway here we have to write it. This is my business clause, login action clause. Extends or implements what their action. This is a predefined library. Business logic must be prepared in the form of a method. What is that method name actually? Execute method. Return type is forward action, action form, AF, and like action forward. Right, sir. Action forward, maybe something else. F, okay, fine. HTTP request and HTTP response. Now tell me, to prepare this particular class, how much predefined library here we are implementing now? How much predefined library here we implemented there? One is what their forward action class, action form, action forward, servlet request, servlet response. Nearly 6 libraries here we are using or not? But now observe carefully. In the case of Spring Up, how the business components are going to be provided here. Public, for example, class, class, login. Class name is what there? Login. Something else. Login. Inside this, maybe some properties, setter methods and getter methods. Directly public string check login method. No parameters, nothing else. We can write that business logic. Tell me here, have you used any predefined library? Except the string class, have I used any predefined library? Now tell me, by seeing this example, which framework is depending more on predefined library? Struts framework is depending more on predefined library or not? But Spring framework is using normal plain Java bean classes or not? So the point is what there, Spring framework is using POSO classes, POSO in the sense what there, plain old Java objects. But Struts framework is not using what there, POSO. Because of this reason, we can understand Struts and JSF are what there, more API dependent, but whereas Spring framework is what there, less API dependent. Why? Because Struts and JSF are using action classes to prepare application logic, but whereas in the case of Spring, Spring framework is less API dependent. Why? Because Spring framework is able to use POSO classes to define business logic or application logic. That is another point here we have to understand now. Sixth difference. On the base of this, more API dependent and less API dependent, one more extended point I'm telling to you. Where more API dependencies available, more library dependencies available, where testing and debugging is somewhat difficult. Where less API dependent is available, where testing and debugging is what there, somewhat less. That means very simple. Understand my point? This is a by default point only, not required to think much about it. Only the point is what there. Due to the above reason, in case of struts and JSF, debugging and testing are very much difficult. What's the point I'm telling there? As they are more API dependent. Next one is, in case of Spring framework, what we are able to understand there, debugging and testing are very simple. Why? Because very simple, as it less API dependent. Right, so now this is another point here we can understand clearly. All right, so then after that, what other points here we have given there about this struts and like Spring framework differences? No, I think we discussed about some other points also. Then what other points can we discuss here? No? Come on, any other thing here? I think in the last classes we understood these points here. In case of struts with JSF, debugging and testing are very much difficult as they're more API dependent. In case of Spring framework, debugging and testing are very simple as it is less API dependent. Any other one? Design patterns I'm telling you. Right, observe carefully. Struts and JSF are using only MVC and its correlated design patterns. Right, sir. Correlated design patterns. What are these correlated design patterns here? Struts. That means MVC. MVC correlated design patterns are what there? We can understand front controller design pattern, DAO, data access object, DTO, data transfer object. These are along with MVC. We used to go for these many design patterns. Okay, fine. But in the case of the Spring Web MVC module only using Spring Web MVC module is only using MVC and its correlated design patterns. Correlated design patterns. Observe carefully. In the remaining modules of the Spring framework, the different things are going to be used. Sir, I forget my point or not? Remaining things are going to be utilized in different views. Struts and JSF are using only MVC and its correlated design patterns. Spring Web MVC modules are only Web MVC module is only using MVC and its correlated design patterns. Another point I'm telling there, remaining modules of a Spring framework are using other design patterns. Other design patterns like what there? IOC. IOC is what there? Inversion of control or maybe dependence injection. IOC is one type of design pattern. Understand my point here? Like what there? Factory design pattern or what there? Singleton design pattern. Like this, so many things are going to be available. When we are moving on to the concepts, whenever we are moving on to the concepts there, we are going to understand all the design patterns then. Of course, before this Spring framework in JDBC in core Java also be some design patterns are discussed already. In core Java, singleton design pattern we have discussed there. Factory methods design patterns we have seen. But in JDBC applications, directly we have seen factory classes design patterns and singleton design patterns in the JDBC application development. Already we have seen them. So similarly, we are going to use them inside like what there, that Spring framework also. These are about like what there, design patterns related. Right, sir? Any other point is missing? Think about it one time. We have to finalize this total point scale. Any other thing is missing there about this? Differences point of view. Heavyweight and lightweight that we understood. More API dependent and less API dependent we understood. Design patterns point of view here we understood there. And web applications only, but here any type of application that we understand. All right, apart from this, any other one apart from this? Right, that's sufficient. In the future, if anything is identified, then I will include that all the concepts. Right or not? Now this is exactly the meaning of like what there differences between Spring and other frameworks. Okay, clear. Next one is Spring history. Some details here we are going to see. Spring history. Right, sir. Who has provided this Spring framework? Initially, the company is what there? Interface One is the company name. It has introduced that Spring framework. Who is the author for Spring framework? Who is the author for Java programming language? Who is the author for Java programming language? James Gosling. But the story behind him is what there? He was with Sun Microsystems up to JDK 1.3 or 1.4 version only. After that, he was not with the Sun Microsystems. He left from Sun Microsystems. Got it or not? There might be some other developers are taking responsibility of preparing the Java effectively. So where another person is like what there? Patrick Norton is another person. He is the key person actually, even when compared with the James Gosling. But in the initial introduction point of this Java, James Gosling played very good role. Then because of that reason, he was very much famous. Leave it, not required for us now. But similarly, Spring Framework was provided by one author. Who is that author actually? That author name is what there? Rod Johnson is a person there. Then who has introduced this Spring Framework. All right, sir. Then what is the objective of it? What is the objective to introduce this Spring Framework now? And a simple and short, we need to give one objective. What is the objective here now? To simplify and accelerate enterprise application development. Yes, sir. What is the objective now tell me? To simplify and accelerate enterprise application development. Simplify. Definitely 70% of the implementation is provided here. Simplification. Next one is what there? Accelerate. Speed up the application development. When 70% of the implementation is available already, remaining parts here we are going to prepare or not. For the remaining part also standard template is provided. No need to get any confusion where to define these components now. Then every component we can provide in a particular location. That locations are defined by frameworks. That's why we can say to simplify and accelerate enterprise application development. Leave this one. Then where, in which year that the Spring framework was provided? That means not in year here. Initial versions. What are the initial versions of the Spring framework now? 1.x version. Of course, years and dates we can check for that in the documentation. Not required here now. Right, sir. Initial versions of Spring framework here we are providing like this. This one. Then here at present, then latest version is what there? What is the latest version of the Spring framework there? We can understand 5.x. Latest version of the Spring framework is what there? 5.x. As per my awareness, maybe 6.x is available or not, that we have to check. I think so. 6.x is available. I think so. Maybe we can understand like a 6.x also maybe. 5.x and 6.x. Usual version is also like what there? 5.x at present now. 5.x is available. Got it or not? Right. So then after that, which type of framework it is no? Right, sir. Application framework. It's like what there? Application framework. Then it is a freeware or licensed one. Freeware or licensed one. Licensed one. Alright, sir. Now this is like what there? Freeware. With the free of cost, we can download this. Got it or not? With the free of cost, we can download this. At the same time, freeware and open source. Freeware and what there? Open source. That's my point here. With the free of cost, we can download. Then as per our requirement, we can change modifications over the framework that we can do. That depends on your requirement. That means that customizations also be here. We can prepare there directly. Sir, all of you are getting my point or not? This is another thing here we understood now. Next one is after completion of this freeware or licensed one here. Apart from this, right, sir, from which website here we are able to get this Spring framework now? www.springframework.com. Previously it is available there. www.springframework.com or springframework.io. Let me check it. No, not a .com. Spring.io, from where we are able to get all the concepts here. I think it is the latest version. Previously, springframework.io, something is there, but it is the latest one here. Then from here, we are able to get our content. So Spring makes Java simple. All right, sir. These are like what they're all the services, what it has given there. Okay, there's many things. Spring.io. At present here we can understand like what there Spring.io. Right, sir. I thought of it. Spring.io. This is the website. From here we can get all the required things. No. All right. Apart from this, what next one here? Designed on. Designed on. That entire Spring framework was designed on the top of what there? On the top of J2SE, comma JDBC API, comma Servlets API, J2SE in the sense core Java, JDB's API, Servlets API. Then after that, apart from that, then what next one here? Apart from this, no JSP's API, of course, that's also existed here. That's it. One or two small things. Understand my point now? So these are like what there that depends on design on. So completely designed on the base of core Java. But which libraries are required for it now? So many libraries are required here. What libraries are required here? Like JDBC or Servlets API or JSP API. Then internally we required all of them. Understand it clearly. Right. Then so these are the details here we can understand there about this one. Yes, sir. Got it or not? Now versions wise modules here I'm going to provide. Spring module. Spring modules. What are the various modules are available? Let me list out all the modules first. After that, I'm going to give explanation for each and every module. After completion of this modules overview, then we will start what their steps to prepare first application in a Spring framework. Right, sir. What are the various modules are available in a Spring? Now try to understand this clearly. Right, sir. First of all, Spring 1.x version related modules here we have to understand. I'll give in the form of a diagrammatic representation or try to understand it. All of you observe this clearly. Right, sir. You are not required to remember all these modules. Just if you open the documentation, there we can see all these diagrams there. But for your awareness, I'm preparing these diagrams now. First of all, here what we are having there, this is like what there core module, Spring core module. All right. Now this is like what there Spring AOP module. Spring AOP module. Now this is like what there Spring web module. Web MVC module like this, web and web MVC like this, web MVC module. Now this is like what there JDBC module, Spring JDBC module. Now this is like what there Spring DAO module. Okay. Now this is like what there web module, Spring web module. That is Spring web MVC. Now this is like what there Spring web module. Right, sir. Then after this Spring web. Then after that, here this is like what there Spring context module. Context module. That's okay. Now this is like what there initial version 1.x version that modules. These many modules are existed there. We can understand this clearly. Maybe the positions may be varied, no, but overall diagram I'm giving there. Otherwise, we can open the documentation for Spring Framework. There we can see the diagram, clear-cut diagrams there. No? But overall view I'm telling there. All right, sir. These are the various models which are available in what there Spring 1.x version. Now Spring 2.x version. In a Spring 2.x version, what you are getting there, observe carefully. Right, sir. As usual here, we are having like what there, core module. This is like what I'm telling to you, core module. All right. Next one is here we are having like what there, Spring AOP module. On the top of this, right, sir. Now this is Spring JDBC module. Now Spring ORM module. Next one is Spring J2EE module. Then after that, Spring Web and Web MVC module, or else simply Spring Web MVC, both are existed here. Now this is about like what there 2.x version. In a 2.x version, newer thing is what there ORM, and other one is like what there J2EE module. The context and like what there J2E applications interaction, then everything is provided with what there Spring J2EE module. Spring Web MVC module is another one. That's okay, fine now. This is like what there 2.x version modules. All right, sir. Next one is after that Spring 3.x version. See, in a Spring 3.x version, the total programming with the Spring framework is totally changed. Programming with the Spring is totally changed. That modules are totally changed. So drastic changes are available in 3.x version. You'll see that. What changes are happened there? Number of modules are increased in a 3.x version onwards. Right, sir. Here, this is like what there test module. This is like what their test module. On the top of this test module, here we are having another module. This is core container. Core container modules. Okay. Core container modules. Observe carefully. Along with that core container modules, there are some sub modules here now. What are the various sub modules here? We can understand. First one is beans. Next one is like what there core. Then after this, next one is context. Then after that, Spring expression language. Spring expression language. Right. These many submodules are available. Right, sir. Bean module, the core module. Then what next one here? Context module and the Spring expression language modules. These many things are existed here. Next one after that, here some other modules are existed here. First one is like what there, AOP module. Next one is aspects module. AOP is different and aspects is different now. Both are available. Then another module was introduced, that is what there, instrumentation. Instrumentation. Another module is existed here. On the top of these two modules, two more modules are provided. Right, sir. Now here we are able to have like what there. This is like what there, JDBC. Next one is ORM. This is like what there, OXM, JMS. There is a name for this module. The name is what there, data access and integration. Data access and integration module. Then where submodules are like what there, JDBC. Next one is like what there, ORM, OXM, and what next one here, JMS. All right. So next one is, this is like what there, Spring Web module. Now inside this, all right, sir, four more things are provided here. First one is like what there, web module. Then after that, servlets. Next one is what there, portlets. Then after that, by the time of introducing 3.x version, struts framework is getting very good demand. So there is a separate module is provided for the sake of interacting, for the sake of integrating what there, struts with Spring. Separate module is provided here for the support of struts framework there now. By the time of introducing 3.x version, getting very good demand. All right, so now here we have to understand web, servlets, portlets, then what next one here, struts. Right, so now this is like what there, what I'm telling to you. Overall 3.x version diagram here. So here test module is introduced, where core container, where that core container is divided into almost all four modules. Beans module, Java beans now. How to manage the Java beans? Core containers, like IOC containers, like a bean factory and application context, something else. Context module. Next one is the Spring expression language, AOP, aspects and instrumentation. Then after that, so data access and integration, JDBC, ORM, OXM and JMS, Spring Web, like what there, web modules, servlets, portlets, and what next one here, struts. Right, so now these many modules are existed in Spring 3.x version here. After that, Spring 4.x version then. What modules are available here we have to understand clearly. Spring 4.x version is almost similar to 3.x version only. Spring 4.x version is almost similar to 3.x version only, but small changes are available. That changes here we have to understand. Test module, core container. In core container, Spring expression language name was changed. Not like Spring expression language, there is a short name for it. The short name was provided here. That is what there, SPEL. Same name is what the Spring expression language only, but short name was provided in 4.x version. SPEL. That is one thing here we are getting. Next one is after that, AOP module. Then after that, aspects module. Then after that, instrumentation module. Along with this, one more minute. Along with this, another module was provided. Another module is like what there messaging module. Okay. Now in a data access and integration, one more module was provided. That another module is provided here as a standard one. Spring transactions module. There is a module here like what there Spring transaction module. Next one in Spring web module is okay, servlets is okay, structure module is removed here. Now by the time of introducing 4.x version, structure module is getting somewhat less demand. So structure framework has removed its demand. Now here it has given for what there web sockets. Web socket. There is another module which was introduced. These are the changes in the case of like what there like a 4.x version here in Spring of 4.x version. Let's see this. Right. So the last one is like what there Spring 5.x version. Spring of 5.x version. Spring of 5.x version is almost the same as Spring of 4.x version only. It's almost the same as like what there Spring 4.x version only, but only one change. What is that change here? In a 5.x version, this test module is not available. Remaining diagram is as it is. Test module is not available. It was removed there. All right, sir. By that we can understand when a Spring framework is not putting any concentration on test module in the sense there is no separated testing teams inside the companies. No. Previously, testing tools are getting very good demand. But by moving on to the years now, year by year, tested developers are almost all removed from the companies there. In the future, you may not see any testing domain. Why? Because Java developers can do the required testing part. Selenium testing that could be done by Java developers nowadays, part of the full stack. Nowadays, in every company, full stack developers are available. That full stack developers must have awareness on what their testing tools. Selenium testing tool. So once Java developers are doing testing, then what is the requirement to maintain that other like trainers there? That means other people there, no, a separate developer for the sake of like what they're testing, no. So they want to remove that part here. Okay. Anyway, now this is like what I'm telling to you. 5.5 expression here we can understand. Right. That's it, guys. Now these are about like what there all the content, no. But 6.2 version, 6.x version might be is available, but still I didn't identify that 6.x version here. Let me check once here. Documentation. I have to check once about this 6.x version. docs.spring.io. Okay, I think so. Some integration layers, so many integrations are provided. That's okay, fine. But you are able to see some diagrammatic representation where same that Spring has very good documentation, guys. Spring has what their very good documentation. Everybody will check the documentation there. We are going to see effectively the content. I was see containers and all. Yeah, just I'm looking for a diagram actually. Module diagram. And this we are getting there anyway. It's okay. Then modules, contribution getting started with where we can get it, no? The core module, at least here we have to get it. The diagram will come there. All the modules diagram there. Whatever the diagram I prepared, no? Then here only we have to see that. It's okay. No, we started directly content actually. See this. I'll show this. 5-point expression I'm showing to you. By that we are able to get some clarity. Already I downloaded the 5-point expression related jar files actually. Let me open it. Then E drive softwares frameworks Spring framework 5.3.9 docs Java doc API. No, it's not coming there. 1 minute. So where it is available, sir? Already I got it from the documentation only. At least let me check in the Google images, no? Mm, But how can you recognize these are like what are the 6-point X? The modules, which version? 6-point X version. Is it okay? Let me check once here. It's somewhat less number of modules are available in the web now, which is somewhat different from our previous actually. Maybe available or not. Let me check once here. Then definitely it will be available in somewhere else here. Then I got that totally from that only. All right, sir. Now Spring tutorials. So okay, modules. Reference here we are getting from anywhere else. No, it's okay. It is providing there, but is it from 6-point X version or not? That point here we have to understand. Exactly. When I got the documentation there, I'm able to see that. In the future, I will show that. But as of now, just understand up to like what there 5-point X version. Up to Spring 5-point X version, what modules are available that we specified clearly. Spring is 6-point X version modules also here. We are going to provide no, but take some time. Then let me go for it clearly. No. Then after that, Spring modules overview. why this overview is required here. If anybody is asking to you, tell me something about Spring, then immediately we have to open our mouth and we have to talk something about these modules. Core module or JDBC module, then what's the purpose of each and every module? There we are going to understand the content here. So that's why we are going to discuss about these points here. Okay, don't worry, then I'll discuss about this content tomorrow. So almost all, we are coming close to the steps to prepare first application. This is the last concept there in the introduction part Spring modules. Then after that, I will go for what there steps to prepare first application only. There I'm going to show some flow of execution, all the components one by one we are going to understand. That's all guys. That's all for today. Then tomorrow we'll see the remaining content here. Thank you. Thanks a lot. All right, sir. And tomorrow means not on tomorrow, right? Monday. On Monday, not on tomorrow. Monday we will see that content. Thank you. అంటే సపరేట్ కోర్స్ ఏం లేదు కోర్స్ పార్ట్ గానే